Hi, everyone. The threat for snow and ice in the deep south continues to grow as we go into this week. Hi, everybody. I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Justice. This system could impact millions with snow and ice. Here's what the European shows. It's one of many that are showing this threat. If you are new to this channel, please consider going ahead and liking this video. Let me know where you're watching from. That helps me so much. Subscribe to this channel if you don't already and turn on notifications. All of us here at WYFF News 4 are going to keep you posted when it comes to severe weather, and especially this time of the year, the chance for wintry weather. So let's back up and talk about system number one that's moving in tonight. You can see on my monitors to either side of me here, we've got snow moving into western North Carolina. It's going to change over to ice as we go into the overnight hours, but a blockbuster ice event, unfortunately, unfolding right now for many states in the United States. And we've got to watch this one closely because this is what opens the door for more to come later this week. Millions under winter storm warnings. We've got blizzard warnings back here toward Kansas. This is a big time blockbuster system, and unfortunately, this is one of two, at least, that will impact the United States this week. There's also a severe concern down here toward Arkansas, Louisiana, East Texas. There are tornado watches on the southern warm sector side of this. So what's going to unfold tonight? Well, let's unpack it here for you. Some snow moved into the mountains of North Carolina tonight. It changes over to ice. The reason being is there's a warm pocket of air in the upper parts of the atmosphere. So that snow falls and melts, falls as rain, but at the surface, it's 32 or below. So it lands as ice and coats everything. That's honestly the worst precipitation you can get in wintertime. As we look up toward the Midwest here, this is a big time system from Ohio toward Minnesota, back through parts of Indiana into Kentucky. Ice and snow, the big deal with this one. It's going to leave a path of at least 4 to 5 inches of snow with some higher amounts here in the 9 to 12 inch range. But you throw on top of that, on the southern side of that big snow swath, you have snow and ice. Look at some of these numbers here in Kentucky. A half an inch to an inch back towards southern Indiana and Ohio. This is a big time system, and it's moving toward the east. As we look at the eastern facing slopes of western North Carolina from Beech Mountain, Boone, those southern sides are going to be slick. Now, it's not too early to turn our attention to the one you're probably tuning in for, which is the possibility of more widespread snow and ice moving into the latter half of this week. And we've got a new outlook here from the Weather Prediction Center, which now has a more advanced look for frozen precipitation. This would be an inch or more of liquid equivalent of snow or ice. So the possibility is growing, and these threats are time-based. So now that we're 5 days out, it's not that so there's a 30% chance to a 50% chance of ice or snow in these areas, including the upstate of South Carolina. It's saying that based on the time frame that we're at, here's what's happening. And being that we're 5 days out, that's a pretty good threat, unfortunately. That's a pretty severe threat. Let's map it out for you. So first system comes through, cools us down. It's about to get very cold this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, kind of the setting the stage time frame. Highs are going to be in the 30s to around 40 in most communities along the I-85 corridor. It's going to be very cold towards central Florida. Many of you have seen some of the numbers coming out of Florida for Disney World. We're talking 30s. It's going to be very cold in Sarasota, Tampa, Panhandle of Florida, like Panama City Beach, Destin. Now we await, now that we know it's cold, we await the system to come our way, which the models have been hinting in some form or fashion I've been telling you about for a week now. Here we are Friday mid-morning. This European model shows light snow developing across the upstate of South Carolina, North Georgia, and western North Carolina. It brings in more moisture, just not a lot. Notice how the low is rather weak. It's a 10-12 low. My general rule of thumb is anything above 1,000, that would be a weaker low. A higher pressure is a weaker low pressure. Does that make sense? So it's a weaker system the higher that number is. If it's above 1,000, it has a hard time sending back a ton of moisture into this dry, cold air. Nonetheless, it does on this model, and it shows that 10-12 low, possibly becoming a 1,008 millibar low off the coast of South Carolina, and then it kind of spits it out. Even though that is a weaker solution of our three most reliable computer models, it still paints out about 1 inch of snow in Anderson, Abbeville, Greenwood. It paints about 1 to 2 inches of snow along the I-85 corridor, 2 to 4 inches from I-85 into the northern parts of the upstate, including Charlotte, including Atlanta. Then you get up into the mountains where Hendersonville northbound would see 3 to 5 inches. And again, this is the weaker, more subdued low pressure system of our three most reliable computer models. It does not show as much ice on the European model today. Let's just scrub that through. This is the first ice event coming through tonight. Then you add in a little glaze, 1/10 of an inch on top of some snow. That would be messy, but not the blockbuster ice event that the European showed yesterday or that the GFS model shows today. So let's just dig in deeper because, folks, as a meteorologist that is responsible, and I have to do that on TV and on social media, just like I would if I were on the 6 o'clock broadcast tonight. I'm not just going to go and say it's going to snow. Anybody can tell you that. But a deeper dive tells me that out of 51 different runs of our European model, almost every single one of them shows snow in some form or fashion in the upstate. The average is sitting at about 1.5 inches. Being that we're 5 days out, that's a pretty decent, it's basically saying 45 out of 50 of these models are showing that the ground will be covered by Friday night into Saturday morning. How about the probability? If you're a different person and want to see kind of things laid out in a different kind of way, let me show you your key. This shows you that in this light blue to light green, sits somewhere in this 40% range. So the European model showing, being that we're 5 days out, we're going to go and throw out a 40% chance of snow or ice that will coat the ground in excess of an inch. Okay, that jumps up to a 100% chance, Asheville northbound, and certainly here for the Midwest. So that's the Europeans' depiction. How about the American model? I don't just show you one model that's going to show you the most threatening. I dive into all of them. And if you appreciate that, please consider liking this video and subscribing. I take my job seriously, whether I'm on TV or here online with you, and I like our two-way conversation. So please also let me know where you're watching from in the comments section. GFS has another low pressure coming our way. It's stronger off the bat. You can see a 1,005 millibar low pressure system. It spits in snow widespread into the afternoon of Friday, one of those days where the kids, some school districts let them go to school and then they get out about halfway through the day. Don't you remember those days growing up? It was kind of magical, right? You get all excited. Teachers would throw on a movie in the morning just to kind of pass the time because who's concentrating on that whenever there's snow coming in? Nonetheless, this was showed by Friday evening. Widespread snows breaking out across Charlotte, up through western North Carolina. Atlanta metro is a mix of rain, snow, and sleet. And then you've got the upstate of South Carolina breaking out into widespread snow that could be heavy. Then comes the warm nose. You got 1,008 millibar low kicking in here, some warmer air in the middle parts of the atmosphere. So what that would do is transition that to ice. Unfortunately, in the upstate, would likely get a layer of snow, then ice on top of that going into Friday evening. This would be 11 o'clock through midnight. That would be the peak of the ice event. After midnight, this is quickly moving out. And when you wake up on Saturday morning, the precipitation is done falling. And this thing developed into a strong sub 1,000 millibar low. That means it's throwing back a lot of moisture for parts of Norfolk up through the Midwest into New England. That would be a big system up there as well, while the rest of us are pulling out from some cold snow and ice. How much, you might ask? Well, remember there was a pretty good shot of some snow on the beginning of that. So the GFS model paints about an inch of snow, 1/2 inch to an inch in Columbia, through Augusta, through Atlanta. You go north of Metro Atlanta through Greenville, Anderson, and Spartanburg. That's 3 to 4 inches. And then you've got basically 4 to 6 inches up to the I-85 to I-40 corridor. And then here in this I-40 corridor northbound, that's 8 to 12 inches of snow with these higher peaks above 4,000 feet. Beach Mountain, Boone, getting about a foot, maybe 14 inches of snow in this scenario. Oh, but the GFS didn't just show snow, right? Remember that. It also shows ice, and unfortunately a lot of it. So imagine getting 2 to 4 inches of snow with about 1/4 of an inch of glaze of ice on it here along the I-85 corridor. The I-85 corridor is notorious from Charlotte to Spartanburg to Greenville to Anderson to Atlanta for being Ice-mageddon, all right? And the reason why is the engineers built I-85 at the foot of the mountains. That's right where the temperature wants to be a little bit warmer than a little bit colder because it's lower elevation. That's why if you get ice, it's almost always setting up shop right here in the I-85 corridor. I-40 is similar, that it separates lower mountains from higher mountains. They were no dummies when they built those interstates. They tried to do it at the easiest spot possible and did it in these areas. So yeah, ice on this GFS America model is a real problem. And looking at the GFS, I mean, out of 30 different runs, almost every single one of them except for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 23 out of 30 show some sort of measurable snow in the upstate. That is a big uptick from yesterday, being that we're 5 days out. Okay, so GFS has trended up. How about the Canadian? It's a little bit of an outlier here on timing alone. It has this kind of miss in the phase. This trough dips in, the low doesn't catch up with it, so it's kind of lost here in the Gulf. But it brings in ice coming into Saturday night, Sunday. It's about 24 hours delayed from its two companions, the GFS and the American, but it paints a lot of ice and very little snow. You see the snow is reserved for the extreme high peaks, 4,000, 5,000 feet up toward Beach Mountain, Boone, Banner Elk, but it does show quite a bit of ice in these areas. Half an inch of ice in metro Atlanta, spits out quite a bit here for the upstate as well. And then back through Tennessee, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, that would be a lot of ice as well. Out of all of its runs, we have 20 different varieties or brands of the Canadian model. Roughly half of them show measurable snow. So what I'm trying to show you here is that the ensembles, or the average of all the Canadians, don't necessarily agree with the timing one of this being Saturday night, Sunday, but also they don't agree with it being necessarily all ice. So a lot to watch here, including the current snowpack. We've got an ongoing winter storm that's going to coat a lot of the Midwest through Oklahoma with ice and snow. That means as cold air moves in from Canada this week, that travels over frozen terrain. Much like going on a road trip, if you put ice in your cooler, it's going to keep those objects in the cooler longer, right? If you didn't have that ice or snow, that object in the cooler, whatever it might be, might get warmer, or will get warmer more quickly. So when we get all this snowpack, the models are not assuming there's snowpack at all right now. So I think the depth of the colder air may be something that's a little bit underdone on the models, and that's something we need to look out for. So typically speaking, this is kind of the last thing I want to show you is the nerding outside of this. A Miller A type system would be a blockbuster snow for Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, Charlotte, up through Boone. Raleigh would be a mix of rain and snow, the triad. Then you go up through the Midwest. This would be a big time nor'easter type system. And that could come our way as we move forward. What we have to watch out for is if this tries to become a Miller B. There are basically two distinct type of winter storms. And a Miller B is what you probably saw the European trying to hint at. Piece of energy comes through, dies off, shifts to the coast, and you get this little one that develops here and gets stronger as it goes north. The Canadian model also showed this. The first system rolls through, kind of gets lost, and you get this little weaker system to come up. So Miller B would be more of a 50-50 chance of snow or ice in these trouble spots of the I-85 corridor. Miller A would be a big time system. There's also a reinforcing high locking in that cold air that would reiterate that. So folks, again, if you're new to this channel and you are just now tuning in and trying to figure out what it's going to do in your neck of the woods this week, fear no more. We will keep you posted around the clock as we move forward here. And I hope that you'll trust me with your forecast. If you don't already subscribe to this channel, please like this video, comment with where you're watching from, and turn on notifications, because as we get closer, this system is going to change. It is going to change quite a bit, and I want you to be prepared for it. Our team at WYFF News 4 works diligently to make sure that you are aware of what's coming your way. And I love this platform that we have online to be able to discuss this deeper. So simply put, a high impact winter storm on the way for the Midwest tonight into tomorrow. And then Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, I'm giving you kind of a buffer there. Another system could move in and impact millions across the South with the first winter weather threat that we've had in 3 years. Almost to the date, okay? So we'll have to watch that very closely. January 2022 is the last time anybody in Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson had a flake of snow or a sleet pellet or a freezing rain event. So we are due, that is for sure, and I will keep you posted, folks. Have a good day.